Welcome, everyone. Jesse has been called a rock star, and I think he deserves that. Jesse and Hoshi both. This whole studio is equipped with materials to work in big stone, and it really is quite unique.
Okay, want me to start?
Yeah, sure.
Or
Maybe.
you want to start?
No, you can start.
Okay, well,
We can talk about how we met.
okay.
Yeah. What is it?
Well, I grew up here, in Steuben, till about 8th grade, and then moved around, and I was really interested in carving stone and wood, even when I was in grammar school. And Hoshi and I first met 2004 when we were both working on a public art project in Japan.
Yes.
So we kind of, Hoshi had gone to art school in Japan. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I grew up in Nagoya, one of the largest city in Japan. I grew up there. Then I always was interested in art, creating things. So then after that, I went to art school, northern part of Japan, in Tohoku. Then after that, I went to another art school in Nagoya, Aichi. So I went to art school. Then after that, I continued my work.
Yeah, so I started carving wood, stone. I've done other mediums, but particularly carving has always been interesting. And because I grew up with a lot of stone around here, it was a material I wanted to work in. It was very hard to learn how to carve granite. It wasn't taught in schools, and I did study marble carving for a little while in New York, but it wasn't the same material. It didn't have the same feel. So I was lucky to work as an assistant for some other artists in Japan, and that's how I kind of made connections within the Japanese sculpting world. There was a lot going on with granite carving back in the 1990s.
Jesse was the founding director of the Skudik Sculpture Symposium, and he worked for 10 years, every other year, hosting a symposium.
I wound up working for an artist in Japan and working as an assistant for a sculpture symposium there, and I'd never even heard of sculpture symposiums. And I just thought it was so great that I came back and I was talking about it, and I was able to get invited. We started a small symposium in Damariscotta, where we just auctioned the work off. It was just a few weeks, and then I went to a symposium in Japan as an invited artist, and I met Hoshi because we met at this sculpture symposium in 2004 in Tochigi Prefecture, and we were both sort of resident artists there for a month and a half. And after that, I visited her in Japan. She came over here, and then we got married in 2000. Was it 2005? 2006. Yeah. Yeah, and then we've been working here ever since. I was just starting to build the studio. Actually, I had just cleared this space, so there was no building up. And Hoshi helped me pour the foundation.
So when I came here, we worked outside, like garage.
Yeah. Outside of the garage at the house, yeah. We started to get a little bit of momentum here, and we had our first real symposium where we raised money to make a public art in 2007.
Jesse Salisbury was the founding director of the Skudik International Sculpture Symposium. From 2007 to 2014, the symposiums drew artists from 16 nations, New Zealand to Sweden, who participated in 5 juried summer sessions and worked with a selection of main stone sculptors to create large-scale public arts projects. The resulting 34 works make up the main sculpture trail that now winds through Hancock and Washington counties. The main trail is linked to a similar project, Sculpture St. John, across the border in Canada's New Brunswick province.
We selected the artists. We planned for about a year and a half for each event, and we partnered with different communities. So we had fundraising groups in each community that raised a portion of the money and helped to decide where the pieces were going to go. We are doing a lot of public art pieces. I like doing them. Hoshi's done some too.
Large-scale granite sculptures by Jesse Salisbury line the drive from ticketing to baggage claim along Maine's International Jetport in Portland. These pieces were selected from the collection of William Hamill, who donated them to the city of Portland as a gift to the people of Maine. This public arts project was supported by the Jetport's director, Paul Bradbury, and facilitated by sculpture consultant June Lacombe.
And then I'm also kind of experimenting with both kind of like revitalizing old techniques, some of the old splitting techniques that go back even to like Egypt, and then mixing that with very modern techniques like diamond wire, and extracting things sort of like you would do in a quarry, but in a more artistic process. A lot of the first Europeans that came over to work in the stone industry here split this way. You can see things, split a few hundred years ago in Maine that were split like this. So the big difference is that instead of drilling holes, each of these holes is carved. So I get in there with a chisel. I do use an air-powered hammer, so I chip these out. And so by carving this, you actually are scoring it. You're scoring it this way, you're scoring it this way, and so you're hitting a chisel line from one hole to the next hole, whereas like a drill hole doesn't give the stone any information. It's just round. So if you put your feathers and wedges in there at the wrong angle, you get a really crooked split, and you get, it'll split from one side of one hole, then the next, make a zigzag line. But this is it's sort of like a combination of scoring and prying the piece open. And this type of technique, it makes a much smoother split, and it follows the form better. There's a new school that's being built in Sullivan, and kind of leading up to it, I kind of envisioned these kind of curves. So I wanted to split two curves and kind of turn them a little bit so they sweep up just a little bit, and then kind of carve where people could sit. And it kind of slopes down, so they'll kind of be kind of like an entry like. And it took me about a day to split it. It took me probably a day to move each piece very gently over, and then we had to kind of slide it to the edge of the quarry so we could pick it out with a 50-ton crane, because each of these these two weigh about 20,000 pounds, and then I need to make them about half this thickness. So you can see the rails. We can put things on these carriages, so we can move things inside. I can cut things with this saw, and then also the saw in the back, which is a wire saw. So we do a lot of work with that, roughing pieces out. So we can take the wire apart there, and we can drill a hole through the stone, and then we can put the wire back together, and then we can cut things out. But this is kind of the common way of splitting stone, is to drill a hole, and these are what are called feathers, and this is called plugs, or wedges and shims, people call them. So you drill a round hole, and these are also called half rounds because they can fit into a round hole, and then you put this in the direction that you want the split to go, and then you hammer on it. And the bigger the hole, the deeper these get. I have some that go in an 1.5-inch hole that are about this long. That's when you see the big holes in the quarry blocks. That's what they split, and they can drill like a foot apart and split big blocks. But what you saw out there, is that we just use this flat wedge, so that fits in those holes, and there's probably about 1/4 of an inch there underneath it, and hammer these in the direction. And so in order to do that technique, we hand forge the tools here, This is a gas forge, so just like a propane tank like you'd use on the grill. And so you also have to make the chisels. And this is the first set that I made in Japan to learn how to do it. This is what I start with. So I buy it. Now I buy a tool blank. When I first started, I'd find used tools and just reshape them. But now I buy the blanks. This is what is called a sharpener's hammer. So sharpening, you didn't actually take a tool like this and put it on the grinder and sharpen it. You would heat it up red hot in here. Hold it with your tongs like this, heat it up red hot, and then you come over here on the anvil, and you can see this is a sharpener's hammer because it's like the right shape if you hit it straight to get that to work, and then you always hit the end of it. So you're creating all these crisp edges. So that with the stone, you're cutting with these by putting these corners on it rather than making like a sharp blade. So that is a sharp chisel. It's all these corners. And I salvaged this power hammer too. So you get your red hot metal over here, you can come over here and get down. So it's a fun space to work in the wintertime when it's really cold out because you get all this extra heat. And I learned how to do it with coal, which was traditional way to do it. But the gas is so much nicer because you don't have the coal fumes, and you don't need a chimney. And the coal also can overheat the stone. That's where you get the saying, too many irons in the fire. It's like if you have too many, you've got too much to keep up with, and then you ruin some of them. And but with the gas, it doesn't overheat them like that. You can see our studio. It's a collaborative space, so if we move something, we're working together, but it's always one person's design or the other.
And we share ideas, but
We definitely talk about the ideas. But of course our work is both evolving too, but trying to kind of take the potential that rock has to be shaped naturally, like the splitting or the way it wears away with water and time, and kind of make that into an artistic arrangement. So you have a lot of different textures working together. We actually make models usually and you can see some of those in the other room, models in the actual material. So we'll do like a small piece, like tabletop size piece that's proportional to what we want to do on a larger scale. Right. So, my idea was to take and I did, I won the project. So I made this model, and then I went out and hunted for a rock that was like, it did kind of basic weight calculation so I could measure a rock and know like about how much it weighed and find the right shape. So the boulder that I got, and then I had to split it where it was in the Blueberry Barrens. It ended up being 26 tons. It was like 15 and 11. And 11 tons each. Transported them back here, and then I figured out how the angle of each of these, because my theory was that if you cut this geometrical shape into a boulder half, it would if it was straight, it would wind up looking like a donut, like a ring. So it had to be tapered to retain the identity of the boulder. And so I had to figure out the angle of these, and I drilled the corners, and then I put it on the wire saw and put the wire through it, and this one I like rotated like this, and then took the wire out, turned the whole thing, put it back on there, rotated it, and this one I did slightly differently. We lined it up like this so that we could cut one, and then cut another one, and then rotate it. And I moved it by putting chains through the holes so that it wouldn't slip. So we wrapped chains in through the holes so that it wouldn't, because this, you can imagine like moving something like this that's 15 tons and trying to put blocks and stuff on it. So. This was an original idea for the Lost Fisherman's Memorial in Lubeck, and I was thinking about making it out of black granite. I was trying to think of something that looked kind of like waves and sculptural, and they originally had design that was kind of like a World War II memorial with like, they terraced off the whole hill, and you'd walk up to it and there would be like a wall, and they had a little spot left for a sculpture in the middle. And I figured that, well, there wouldn't be any money left for a sculpture if you built all that stuff, so I had to make the whole thing a sculpture. And so this was my first proposal, but it winded up being, it was going to be really more expensive, and it was a little bit complicated to put names on this, so I came up with the idea of splitting it into two pieces and walking through the middle, so you put the names on the inside, and then it would still have the sculptural identity on the outside. And yeah, it seems to be a popular monument in the area.
So this is a model, but height is 14 feet high. So I'm always thinking about the idea, and also I'm believing my idea is good fit with stone. That's why I'm choosing stone. Stone is not first. My idea is first. I have been working stone sculptures with stone as my primary means expression, but recent years I'm interested in exploring new challenge. Then I have been studying working on 2D work. Then I'm interested in local natural materials. Then I have been using silk screen method to create 2D work. So this is I started this for last year. This is soil pigment. Soil. Then this is with stone dust from my carving stone. So this is stone powder. This is Japanese stone powder to make line for stone. So I use all the time this powder. So I just wanted to create with this print with the powder.
Like a lot of times we get the question, which comes first, the stone or the idea? And it's, so you can certainly get inspired by the stone, but you kind of have to go from both directions, because you can have an idea, but if you're not a little bit flexible, it's hard to find the exact stone for it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I'll have the idea, I'll look for the stone, I'll make a model, but then I'll have to redo even the model because it has to be with a specific stone. I think I work in, spend a lot of times in the quarries and a lot of time hunting for like naturally shaped stones. With the variety of stones we have here, the surface texture and everything is very different, and the way the tools leave marks on them is different. So there's lots of layers of ways to have a dialogue with the material. Mm-hmm.